On this edition of Cliff Richard, The Vinyl Years, we're covering the 12-inch singles. We've got a lot of information to go through. The first 12-inch single that we come across was a Dutch edition, and is officially the first Cliff Richard 12-inch single, and that was We Don't Talk Anymore. Not the first British one, but the first one that we can find anyway. And We Don't Talk Anymore, number one, a fantastic single for Cliff Richard. That was in the late 80s. It wasn't until a few years later that he brought out his second 12-inch single, and the first one in the UK. So we fast forward to 1983 and we see the release of Never Say Die, which was the first official British 12-inch single. Is there a great variance on it? No, there's just extended sections of the record, and quite unremarkable. However, it was a new medium and everyone was experimenting with it. And if you look at the picture, the disc rather, the cover, you'll see the 12-inch extended version. So that was a good market until people wanted more of the same, you know. So interesting, but his first one. So in 1984, we see Baby You're Dynamite coming out in 12-inch single. Which is curious for a couple of aspects, is because of this Ocean Deep B single, which became the A single and things like that. But on 12-inch, it only ever stayed as an extended version of Baby You're Dynamite, and it did feature Ocean Deep as part of the B side on that one. So that was 1984, and we're certainly seeing the same flash on the front about the extended mix. So it was good for additional for the collectors and that. So the next edition was Two to the Power. It's a 12-inch single. Was with Janet Jackson. What we see here is a start of a few duets that Cliff Richard had brought out during this time. We were bringing these megastars together. Of course, Janet Jackson being the younger sister of Michael Jackson, and of course the Jackson Five. The single was fine. However, the only bit of interest we've got in this one was that listed on the albums and that of exactly the same version was Two to the Power of Love. So it was the same track but different names. So a wee bit of curiosity there. The next single that came along was Cliff back on his own. It was called Heart User, and where we see is the slight change of tack as far as marketing goes on the 12-inch singles. What we see is two versions of the same disc. So you get the Heart User 12-inch in the plain edition, and then you got a 12-inch with a poster edition. And again, at that time, it was about promoting the single, getting as many versions out as can. They all counted, and to push the record up the charts, you know. So, but that some interest there is that we start to go along that route as far as collection stuff available as well. The next 12-inch we see comes from 1985, and that was She's So Beautiful. Heavily featured the backing vocals of Stevie Wonder. Bringing these two icons together was a good promotional thing. And it was the first of three records that came from the show called Time, Dave Clark's Time, which I managed to see in the early 80s myself and thoroughly enjoyed it. The show itself was a lot of different artists were involved, and I think Cliff Richard was on approximately 2 years on that show, and it was very technical and things like that. But we're talking about the 7-inch singles, so that was the first one, She's So Beautiful, and really nice record and done really well chart-wise as well. It's in Every One of Us was the next one. It also came from Dave Clark's show called Time. And really, all of these records were just lifts from the show or the album itself. with extended musical pieces. So not unique in the sense of another and additional music and sense of hearing more of Cliff or anything like that. It's more of a different format to help promote the single. So as every one of us was the second of the three records that, or three singles that came from that show. So the next one, we actually broke the chain of the three records, but of course it was the highly important for number ones, because this is credited to Cliff Richard and the young ones. The comedy, it was from a TV show at the time, featured famous alternative comedians. So Cliff Richard registered a number one with this charity single called Living Doll. Featured Hank Marvin and was really well received at the time and really popular record, and went on to do gold disc levels, which was exceeding 400,000 sales of this particular one. So this 12-inch single, is it very different? Not particularly. There's more conversation pieces and comedy lines and things like that, but other than that, it's a pretty standard issue with these bits added in, but for the right reasons. Comedies for comic relief, which was supporting Ethiopia and Sudan as far as financial support from the sales from the record. So all in a good cause. So in the next single that was brought out was Born to Rock and Roll, which was a return back to the time, Dave Clark's time, the shows we were talking about earlier. Not particularly anything overly interesting in this one. It was a rockier attempt on there and fitted into the storyline of the show itself, but maybe a return to more Cliff Richard early stuff possibly on that one, but still, yeah, it's an interesting one. In 1987, the release of Some People was a massive hit for Cliff, reached number 3 in the singles charts, and at that time it was absolutely standard that the 12-inch singles would come out. Again, two versions here. There's a poster one of the single, but the track remains the same on both versions. So a successful single, and we continue to see the marketing element of it, you know, with the posters and things like that. Remember Me was another one of those, the double take as far as the 12-inch singles goes. So there's two versions of it, and the one version's got an extra track in it. So from the point of view of the single, the track, the main track remains the same, but it's interesting for the collector. So we see the Valentine, or lined up for Valentine's release of the single Two Hearts as the next 12-inch single. They made this interesting from the marketing point of view of having a gatefold sleeve and presented as a card. It was interesting. I don't know how successful that was. There was other things, they've done something similar to the picture disc as well. So you can see in here, so you can see what the inside of the single, the 12-inch single's got there. So you would write, you know, your I'm not quite sure, but you would write a rhyme. Roses are red, violets are blue. You just whatever. You could add that on and present with a single, a wee bit and originality. Don't know how well it worked. I'm just trying to think of where this would end up, you know, sort of on mainstream. So I don't know, but anyway, it was there, and made it an interesting single by, or unique packaging makes that an interesting single. So Mistletoe and Wine, everybody's would, I'm pretty sure would be in top 10 of everybody's all Cliff fans of his records, I'm pretty sure. Interestingly, on the 12-inch there was two versions again. You've seen a theme going through there, helped to promote, and because it was round about Christmas, there was an advent calendar to it. So what it had was, this is a standard one you're looking at, but on the other side had sort of candles and a rose, sort of Christmas scene. and then each of them had the advent calendar still with the numbers, and you would open up and see an image of Cliff Richard on that one. So that's an interesting collector's piece from that one. But both records are the same in terms of the actual track itself. Best of Me, Cliff's 100th single. Although there's a bit of debate about that one because of how they come to the 100, but regardless of that one, it's heavily advertised at that time of being his 100th single. You see in this particular version, it's got gold colouring. There was also a white colouring on there, and they done that on the other versions as well, in the 7-inch single in particular. No difference to the records attached on that one, but just maybe not quite clear what they were trying to do in that one particular one. The internal record remains the same, or the tracks remain the same, but 100th single. So we reached 1989, and Cliff brings out a single called I Just Don't Have the Heart. It was more of a ditto, and it sort of belonged to a sort of dance song on there, quite catchy tune, and it was pretty typical of the songwriting and music talents of Stock Aitken and Waterman, who were producing records for, in particular, Kylie Minogue, Jason Donovan at the time, and can't remember another one, but there was another pretty a regular song that constantly gets played even today. So in this particular one, in the Cliff one, there was a standard issue, there was a poster issue. You can see the poster in the backdrop there. Now, to confuse things even further, they created these two editions were the same, but they created a dance mix which was put together by Dave Ford, and nothing particular in, as far as the packaging and all that went, but just a different a variation of it. So to get a complete set, you need to get the three. Not particularly easy to get that version, but you can see a picture of it. No packaging or anything as such, other than a plain black sleeve. On the other side of the poster is a picture of Stock Aitken and Waterman at that time. I don't know why or whatever, but they were pretty famous at the time, and I don't know how many #1 hits that they had collectively, but it was certainly massive at the time. So that maybe their egos made them get themselves put in that picture as a way of promoting. 1986 saw the release of the duet between Cliff and Sarah Brightman called All I Ask of You. This was a concert released single, or the edition I've got here, which has the full score script and actors' voices and stuff like that. So it's interesting keepsake from the concert. Now we'll see that Cliff Richard actually didn't appear in the show, but he appeared in the single. It was Michael Crawford. It was on the show itself, but Cliff Richard on the album and in this particular single. The other version, it's exactly the same single on there, but the other cover has got a picture of Sarah Brightman and Cliff Richard on it. It's non-associated to the Phantom of the Opera, but a nice song nevertheless. The next one was another duet with Elton John. What we see here is a single that was came out in 86, but it was recorded in 84. This particular picture that they've used on the front cover came from a show that was Cliff made for Channel 4 called Cliff from the Hip, and Elton John featured on that one, so they're photographing them and they're singing the single Slow Rivers. Back to the charity singles, and well, the other one was the comic relief one. This was the Anti-Heroin project called Living World, where there was a lot of artists involved there, sort of Band-Aid style record, and Cliff Richard's strongly in this one, and it makes this not put down as a Cliff specific recording, but it features here because it's 12-inch format. So the next one, My Pretty One, came out in two different variations. So you'll see that we've got the standard issue here, and the poster, which came, massive picture of Cliff Richard on there for the fans, and the picture would just insert, or the disc would just insert beside the actual same cover, if that makes sense. You can see what's happening here on there, but the tracks remain the same. Okay. Lena Knew was the next 12-inch single, and there was nothing remarkable about this other than it was advertised as an extended mix. I suppose one thing we should acknowledge is that the picture disc was actually came in a 12-inch format as well, certainly on the size, and it was packaged in the same sleeve cover as a 12-inch, which makes it maybe a wee bit unique from that point of view. But that was it. The pictures remained the same and stuff like that, as the single, or the 7-inch single. Next single up is Whenever God Shines His Light, was a duet with Van Morrison. There wasn't anything unique in particular about the 12-inch version of this one, and it was on Van Morrison's record label, so I don't suppose that Cliff Richard had much control over what the release was. And on the B-side, there's 2 songs by Van Morrison on there. Doesn't feature Cliff, but 2 icons of the rock pop era coming together for this religious song, and they've done a good job. Stronger Than That is slightly unique in the sense of when they done a survey of the Cliff Richard fans, this was the one that they believed would be the best single for his 100th release. You'll know that as being Best of You, but Stronger Than That was the most popular amongst the fans, but the fans were ignored, but possibly, or they didn't think, the record company didn't think the song was strong enough to go into the charts. So the song done alright, in the sense of and is it better than Best of Me? They're probably much the same from the Stronger album. Anyway, the unique thing about this one was there was an insert card of the same cover, or the same image rather, as the cover, with Love Cliff Richard on it. It was not a signature as such, but an image of a signature. So makes it slightly interesting. It's another collectible there for the fans. Silhouettes was up next. Song, it was at average fare. Came out in 1990 on there in 12-inch format, along with other formats obviously, and it was a moderate hit for Cliff Richard. There's not a lot else you could say about that. It's an image from on the front cover from the event concert. From a Distance was taken from the event itself, so it's a live version taken from the album. However, there's some adjustments we made. Some crowd noise being taken out, and extended versions of the music, and more of a fade out rather than the abrupt stopping that you would get in a live concert. The poster that came with it was obviously much sought after at the time because it linked directly to the concert in this particular single. The packaging was fairly pretty boring in the sense of the internal one, but we had posters on both sides from that one, and of course the poster makes it very collectible. Saviour's Day was another number one for Cliff Richard, and perfect for the sort of Christmas period, and got to number one. The 12-inch version is slightly extended, nothing particular of interest there. There is an error on the writing of the actual name of the song, where it should be, the song is Where You Are, and it's printed on the back of the cover. The record itself is correct, the label on the record's correct, but in the cover it's got Where Are You? So it makes it a wee interesting one, and these Cliff Richard fans who want to check continuity and everything, that's right up their street. Anyway, interesting song, and one that we hear every Christmas, and captures Christmas as much as, or maybe not as much as Mistletoe and Wine, but certainly up there. This New Year was Cliff Richard's last official 12-inch single ever released, and makes it unique as it's brought to get an end of an era. I say that because there was another one I'll talk about in a minute, but this one had the poster sleeve, or the insert poster rather than the poster sleeve, and it had a calendar for people with for the following year, which would have been 1992. Some pictures of Cliff, which I'm sure would be very popular. So this new year, the 12-inch single is not particularly interesting from other than that point of view. It's been the last one on there. So, well, end of an era, possibly. Keep listening. So, Black Knight, 12th of the 10th, 1998. Interesting. Well, it was interesting from the point of view it was only a promotional only and went out to record stations, this 12-inch. And what they did was there was no mention of Cliff Richard. At the time, Cliff was feeling that they wasn't appearing in radio station playlists and things like that because of ageism, and he wanted to prove the point. Now, this particular record was flooded everywhere from a new record label, and was well received. In reality, it was a good song, and well, called "I Can't Keep This Feeling In." Of course, he went on to reveal who he was. It was actually revealed by the Sunday newspapers on there, and it was immediately withdrawn from a lot of the radio stations' playlists. What made it interesting is it compounded the problem, but at least Cliff got he got that word out that this was the kind of thing happening. It was ageism. It wasn't about the quality of the record, and it was his inability to get record players, which was affecting his sales. Without a doubt, he was correct. The single, on its own merits, reached just outside the top 10, so it was a good single. This sheet went in with the records, and DJs would tick off how they felt the record went and how it was being received and things like that, and it was doing really well. What ultimately happened was Cliff released it as a single, and this version, or the versions that appear on the 7-inch, appear on the CD version, so fans didn't miss out if they didn't get this particular promotion. But officially, not his last 12-inch, but a 12-inch promo, which is an important part of this collection and a fantastic story as a backdrop. Now, in terms of anything else happening from there, all promotions were done from CDs from this point on. So we see the end of the vinyl, and we see the end of the 12-inch, certainly, as a format. So you can see from the label itself, plain white, it had "Can't Keep This Feeling In" and the Stepchild mix, and it was Black Knight 1, which obviously was a play on words, and on the B side had "Can't Keep This Feeling In," and it was the full Chills R&B mix. Seemed to go down pretty well with the DJs, but as I explained earlier on, wasn't going down well with the DJs when they found out who it was. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Cliff Richard, the vinyl years. We were covered the 12-inch singles. So until next time, when I don't know what genre we'll be picking up, but I'm looking forward to talking through my collection, my views, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. So until next time, bye for now.